Welcome back to the channel. So this is day 2 of our exception handling in Python series. So basically in our previous video, we learned about the basics of exception handling. There we saw the basics and we saw like the try, except block, try, except block, try, except else block, and then try, except finally block. And we saw the different scenarios, basically how this is helpful, and we saw some best practices of using the try except block, right? So today in this video we will be learning the raise keyword, basically raise keyword, right? So let's start. So let's begin with the definition of raise keyword. So like you need to remember this thing in the entire lecture, because the what the definition basically what is the definition? The same thing we implement in the code also. Let's read the definition. The raise keyword in Python is used to manually trigger an exception. So this word is very important. We manually raise an exception. Got it? This can be useful when we want to enforce certain condition in our code, or when we need to signal that an error has occurred. So this word is very important when we want to signal that an error has occurred. So like the two words are very important over here: manually triggering of exception, and then signal that the error has occurred. So you might be relating now that in while developing the real-time project, or in the industry, what we do, so at some point of time, let's say some error has occurred. So what we do, we don't want that the process should continue. We want that the process should break then and there, and we should insert a update statement in our database that the uh, process has broken, or there is some issue, and that like the UI team, basically what they do, they basically fetch the data from the database and display on the UI that error has occurred, right? So that's why like this raise keyword is very important, and that particular thing we do using the raise keyword only, right? So let's start. So this is the basic program, basically a function, like a program without a raise keyword. So see here what exactly we are doing. So here we have the variable a equal to 5, and we are using the modulo. So a modulo 2, like we will get the values either 0 or 1. So whenever the values of a would be a odd number, then we would get the 1, and otherwise 0. So here, since the value is 5, so it is an odd number, so we will come into the this block. So the division, basically the modulo of a 5 modulo 2 would be 1, and so that is not equal to 0. So we would come in the if block, and we would get this output as uh, the result is odd number, right? And if this one is 50, then we will come into the else block, right? So this is the basic program. There here we are not using any raise keyword now. So here the ask is, we need to raise a we need to raise an exception when this is a odd number, basically wherever this if condition is fulfilled, or whenever this is true, then we need to raise a exception, right? So here what we are doing, we are like whenever we come into the if block, we are raising an exception. So here if you see, like this is nothing but a class name. So you can see here when I'm like selecting this particular word, we are getting a class, right? So this exception is nothing but what? Class, and it is a highest level of class, basically. So you must have seen in the previous video, basically we have different type of classes of exceptions: syntax error, type error, name error, index error, and all these kind of exceptions like classes are there. And we saw the hierarchy also, right? So this is what class. And in our like next video, what we will do, we will make our own class, basically like we will not be using our inbuilt classes, right? So that would be the topic for our next video. So if you see here what we are doing, so whenever we come into the if block, we are raising an exception. So since as of now the value of a is 50, so like the first condition will not met, and we will come into the else block, and we should get this error. The result is even hooray, right? So let me print this. So you can see we are getting this. Let me make this as odd, right? So we should come in this block, and we should get an exception, basically. So now if you see like the console output, here we are getting this first line, right? And then we are getting this raise exception message, and the class is exception. So this, like wherever you see in the console, wherever the console is, let's say it is basically the PyCharm or any ID basically. So this is what the left side, the left part of this colon is the name of the class, and right part is basically the message which is given in that particular exception, right? So these are the, like, we are manually raising an exception. So you might have experienced that we get an exception via the program, right? Let's say we are trying to divide a number by zero, or we are like having the value error. We have not defined the um, a variable, then we get the name error, all these kind of exception, right? These are the built-in exception. So if you see here, like the program broke over here, and we got this exception, right? So like the importance of raise keyword is, so whenever we raise a exception, that needs to be handled, right? Understood. So that we will see in the, like the later part of the video, how we handle the exception and how we use this for our benefit basically. So okay, now let's see the, like what happened when we use the raise keyword, like which piece of code does run and which not. Let me bring my pen. So let me change the color basically. I don't like this color. Okay. So now if you see here, okay, why it is not going? Okay. Okay. So now if you see here, we ran this. Let me run this. Okay, I think we ran. Okay, this piece of code we have not run, I think. Let me close this and let me run this. Okay, so now we have run, and let's see what we got in the output. Okay, so since A is 5, so it is odd, we came into the if block, right? And we got this print statement, and that is what is present over here, that one is the result and it is a odd number. This got printed. Then what we did, we raised a exception, right? We raised an exception and we came to this line, like line number 5, and we got this exception. The result should be even. Like this is what we had passed in the message, right? So like basically the syntax is class name and message, right? So this class name can be this class name is of two types. First is built-in, and the second is like custom. So the custom class we will learn in our next video. As of now, we are dealing with the built-in classes of exceptions. So and exception class is the highest level. Like we have the very granular type of exception, like divide by zero, name error, value error, and all those kind of that we saw in our previous video. So this is the highest level of exception. So you can see like this piece of code, the line number 6, this we cannot see anywhere, right? In our console, output console, we cannot see this particular line, that after the raise keyword. Why? Because like this is what I wanted to teach you basically. So once the error has occurred and we have raised a exception, the any none of the line after that could get executed. Got it? So this is what we wanted. Let's say we are processing, let's say we are making an application of ATM, and something has occurred at line number 50. Then we don't want to process the line after that, right? We want to raise an exception, and we want that exception to be handled in the higher or higher class, higher level basically. That we will see in the later part of the video. So I hope this you understood. Let me go to the next scenario basically. Now here comes the thing, like till this point we have not handled the exception, right? We are just raising the exception. Now let's see the behavior. Like I have created these two behavior basically uh, of handling the exception. Let's see now. So like as of now everything is commented. Let me run this. Okay, now this got executed. So let's see what exactly we should get. Okay, so since so now like to handle the exception, what we should use? We should use try except block. Got it? So here we are using the try and except block, right? And here the highest level of exception we have provided. So here since a value is odd, we are coming to this if block and we should get this value, right? And then we are raising an exception. Since we are raising here the exception, we should accept it, right? Because we are using the try catch block. And so like what should be there in the output? We should have line number 9. Got it? This print, and then we are raising an exception. Then line number 11 should not be there. Line number 11 will not be there. And then we are coming to this except block, and here line number 15 should be there, right? Line number 15, and then like the in except block, and then we are printing this, the message. The value of E would be the message we have passed over here, the message which we have passed while raising the exception. The message is the result should be even, right? Then we should get the line number 16. And once everything is run successfully, since we are handling the exception, then we should get the line number 18 also. So we should get 18. So altogether we should have four line, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Let's see the output now. So now you can see we got all these all these four messages. I hope you understood this thing. So here basically what exactly I wanted to teach you, that here we are raising a generic exception. That is like we are using the except. This is not a granular type of exception which we are dealing. But in a program, this is not how we should write. If we know the type of exception, then we should use the the granular level of exception. So now let's see those example over here. So see let me run this first. Okay, now see what exactly we are doing. So same thing we are doing. So like again, this is A is 5. So we should come in this block. We should get this line, like the line number 28. And then we are raising the exception. Then we should not get this line basically. And if you see here, the output, we don't have this line number 30 anywhere, right? And then since we are using the exception class, then the block would come over here, like in the exception class. Like what exactly it does, it tries to find the same class name. So here we are using the exception class and value error class. Since while raising the exception, we are using the exception class, then it will go in the same class. It's not like it will go in the value error. This is what I wanted to teach you basically. So I hope you understood. So if you see the output also, we got the the line number 28, and then we got since we didn't come into the value error, so we didn't receive this, and we came over here in the line number 27 got printed in uh, the execution block. And then line number 38 basically we got the message from here, the result should be even, and this is what we can see over here. And then we have the line number 39, because since we are handling the exception, then program is ending gracefully. It's not like we are getting the error message. So let's say if I convert this, okay, let's say if I convert this exception to value error, like the name of the class name, I convert this to value error. Now we should get this message inside the value error block. Okay, let me run. Okay, now you can see we are getting that particular message. I hope you understood this also. Now let's go to this part. Basically, this is the very important thing. This is what we like in order to understand this re-raising of the exception. And basically, this is one of the advantage also, like the error propagation. I will teach you all these things later. So this is error propagation. So this is nothing but the very important thing, and this is what we call the re-raising of the exception. And using this property of the exception handling only, we we put a proper message in the database once there is some failure or anything like that, and that message get basically fetched by the UI team, and they display on the console on the UI basically. So here we have the 5 different scenarios. So let me comment all these things, and let's go one by one. So here what exactly we are doing. Let me run this and then we'll see. Okay. So now you can see the message is value error has occurred. You are trying to convert string to integer. Okay. So, okay, let's see the code now. So here the value of s is d with var, and what we are doing, since uh, we are trying to convert a string into the integer. So here the exception has raised. So if you notice here, we are not basically raising the exception using the raise keyword. I hope you are getting the point, right? We are not using anything like that, raise exception or anything like that. We are not using. This is getting occurred by the program. and we are handling that using the proper, basically, since this is the value error, I know and I have written this, but this is not a good practice. Basically, we should always write this also, except exception. What if you, if any type of error has occurred which is not mentioned over here, that should not get that should not be, we can leave as it is, right? So we should always write like this. So I hope you understood this. So we got this, right? Let me raise that kind of exception. So let's say what I do, let me raise a divide by zero exception. So let's say if I write like this, um, x equal to 10 divided by 0, right? And let me comment this line of code, right? Now we should get divide by 0 exception. And if you see here, I have not written divide by 0 class over here. So that will be get captured by this piece of code basically. Let me write over here, inside the exception block, right? So let me run this. So if you see here, inside the exception block and divide by 0. So that message we got. I hope you understood this piece of code. Okay. So the same thing, like basically I wanted to, so basically the same thing, right? I'm here raising the exception, divide by 0. So this I have covered. Now re-raising the exception. So this part is very important. Okay. So let's see what's the output of this piece of code. Okay, the P and the output is error. Okay. Now let's see. So what we are doing, we are having the s equal to this, and we are trying to convert a string into the integer. Then we should get a value error, right? So we are coming to this piece of code, and here we are printing the value error has occurred. Let's see the output. So in the output also we are getting value error has occurred. So this is coming from the except block. That is, we are handling the exception, right? And then what happened? We are again raising the value error exception. String can't be changed to into integer, right? String can't be changed into integer. We are getting this error message. So let's see what we are getting in the output console. So basically, if you see line number 30, we got the exception. We came to the while handling, then we came to the exception handling block, and see what message we are getting. During handling the above exception, another exception has occurred. So basically, while handling this, like the value error exception, another exception has occurred. Which exception that is? That is a like the manual exception, right? We have raised the manual exception over here. Got it? I hope you understood this thing. And since we have raised the manual exception and we have not handled this exception, so we are basically we are not getting this piece of code. Basically, after exception only, I will not be executed. So if you see here, we are not getting that particular message over here, because since we have raised the exception and we have not handled, so the program has not like finished gracefully, right? So that's why we are getting this particular, we are not getting this particular message. So let me comment this. So now I think you understood this re-raising the exception uh, thing. So, okay. So let's see. So basically, this is the handling of re-raise exception wrong way. This is the wrong way of handling. Basically, this is incorrect. Basically, you can say, like I thought of showing this because a lot of time we think like if we write like this, then it will handle, but in reality, it will not handle. Right. So let me run this. So if you see, we are getting this exact same output. So if you see here, what exactly we have did. So basically here, if you see, we have raised the exception, and again, like we thought that, like we, most of the time what we think that if we write again except block after that, it will handle it. But that is not how it works. So like in order to handle this, this should, like there should be another try catch block at the higher level after this. So that we will see over here, like the next part is that only. So if you see here, like this is not how we handle the exception basically. Got it? So let's see the next part. So basically here we are handling the exception. So let me comment this and let me run this. So if we run this, now you can see we, like the program has ran successfully, and we have got the last line basically, after exception handling, I would be executed as exception has handled. So this piece of line has ran. So let me explain you the piece of code, basically why this is working. Okay. So if you see here we have the two try except block. The first is the outer one, right? Line number 62, line number 70. This is the outer try except block. And one we have the inner, basically line number 62 to line number 64, right? What exactly we are doing? We are trying, we are having this s value as integer, and we are trying to like a string, we are trying to convert into the integer. Then what will happen? Like exception will occur, and we will get into this piece of code basically, and the value error has occurred. This message we will get line number 65, right? And then again we are re-raising the exception, right? So what we are doing, we are writing value error, and we are raising the type of exception as value error, and the message is string can't be changed into the integer. And so this is basically the outer level. Let me erase this thing. Okay. I think this. Okay. So if you see here, like the exception is raised from this piece of code. From here it will come into the outer block. It will search for the, it will search for this kind of basically the value error class, and it found it. So it will print line number 68, right? And then it will print this also, line number 69. Got it? The message. And then we will come out of this loop, and like basically this block, and we'll come to the line number 67, and we will get this. So 74, and we should get four lines in the output. So let's see over here. So you can see value error has occurred. Handle the exception inside the value error class that we saw. This is the message which we passed while raising the exception, and this is the last line. I hope you understood like how to handle the exception basically. Let me, so this is we are doing without any function. The same thing which we can do like in while writing the uh, a big or higher like complex project. We don't write a code like this. We basically put into the classes and the functions. So this is how we write the code generally. So what exactly is happening over here? So we are having the function definition, basically the fun call, and we are passing an integer st, and we are the same piece of code basically, right? And here we are raising the exception, the value error, and here the exception will, like here we are calling this particular function, and once the exception has occurred, then here we are handling that particular exception. So if you see here we are raising the value error exception, and here we have not written that particular class, and we have simply written the generic class, right? So like this is how basically we write also, because like we have raised exception over here. This function can call another function, that function can call another function. So at the higher level we should always have this type of exception basically. So here also like we should get the same output basically, right? So if you see here, um, what exactly we are getting, message from the value error class. So like here message from the value error class, and we are printing that e, basically the e is invalid literal for int. Like basically we are trying to convert a string value to an integer value, and then we are raising the exception. So this piece of code, let me explain why this. So this will come over here, right? This will come over here. It will print inside the exception block, and then it will print this e, re-raising the exception, the message which we have passed while raising the exception, and then we are getting line number 99, right? I would be executed as exception has been handled. So I hope you understood this raise keyword very well, and we have seen a lot of example. I think I have tried to cover each and every possible scenarios. So let's see the advantage, basically the custom exception handling. So this we will see in our next video basically, right? Now the error propagation that we saw live basically, right, in execution. So error propagation, what exactly it is. So let's read this. When an exception condition occurred within a function or a method, you can use the raise to propagate the exception up to the call stack, allowing higher level code to handle the error appropriately. I hope you understood this thing. So like exception occurred here, we are not handling this exception over here. We are re-raising this, and we are handling this at the higher piece of code or higher level of code. So this is what exactly this means. This can be helpful for singling error that occur deep within the nested function call. So I hope like whatever we have written over here, we are seeing live, right? So explicit error handling, this we understood, and then debugging. Yeah. So in debugging also, in the most of the time, what we do, we try to like debug the code using the raise keyword, right? I hope you understood this piece of code. So let's meet in the next video. There we will understand like how we can create a like the custom exception, basically custom exception class, and learn these things like and use in our real-time project basically. So if you're new to this channel, you can check out our other playlist. Basically we have a lot of interview related content on SQL, PySpark, Pandas, Python, right? So you can check out that also. So let's meet in the next problem. Until then, bye.